Hello, my art-loving people. A while back, I bought every color Aquatone offered at that time, and these are the yellows. So we will be looking at the yellows in this set. I have already done the 28 full pan set, the granulating set, and the grays set. So I'll put those videos in a playlist for you. I'll link it in the corner, and I think it will automatically show up in the description box once I do that. So you should be able to find those other videos if you want to catch up. So you might argue that some of these might not be yellows, but I've just split them up the best I can. So let's take a look. I have a watercolor database project that I've been working on, trying to get all of my watercolors into a database. Well, basically it's a spreadsheet, which is, I don't know, a layman's database. Anyway, I'm also putting them in an actual physical card file so that I can reference them later, and this is on Arches paper this time. I'll do an overview of how I do this on the first one, and then I'll skip this part for you on all of the rest so you don't have to watch through all of the watering down. So I put water halfway on the black line and down so that if there is any kind of spread or explosion, we can see that pretty easily when the paint hits it. So it's really fun. I don't pre-wet any of the colors because I'd like to see how they're going to behave just on their own without any help. It gives you an idea of how hard or soft the colors dry. Some of these came out of the full pan set, and some I poured into pans myself. So the little shorter pans, like this yellow ochre here, that came out of the full pan set. Same with these first two yellows. They're just a little bit shorter. You can see the height difference here between this Indian yellow and the yellow ochre pan. So I've pulled all the yellows out of everywhere I have them, and then I just swoop a little till I feel I have enough paint in the brush. That didn't take long at all. And go clear down into the water. It makes my brush wet again, which is great. I don't have to dip in water, and I'll either go over the swatch one more time or two more times depending on the strength. This one I'm going to leave at just 2 times. 3 is the max I'll allow because I figure if you have to go over a paint more than 3 times, then it's not really worth doing. I wouldn't do that in a painting unless I really needed a deep color. So I try and keep it to 3 times. So that one there was the lemon yellow. It's a PY3 light fast 4 out of 5. It says, even though it's a PY3, which is fine. Semi-transparent, semi-staining, non-granulating. This one is Hansa yellow, a PY1 light fast rating of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. You can see both these yellows are bright and beautiful. In fact, most of them are. Really like them all so far. The opaque ones I'm a little on the fence with, although I have used the Naples Yellow Red a lot in the full pan set. This one is Hansa Yellow Deep, PY65, light fast rating of only 3 out of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This just has a beautiful glow to it, like the first two. The first two are almost neon. This one is just more of a medium yellow. It's quite lovely. Now get ready for some beautifulness. This one is Permanent Yellow Deep, PY83, light fast, 4 out of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. It's like the lightest of oranges, actually. There's a couple of these that probably could have been in an orange video, but they have the word yellow in them, so they're in the yellows video. Besides, we wouldn't have had enough colors if I had separated them. Now we have Indian yellow. This one is such a lovely color to use with painting foxes and many other things. PY110, light fast rating 5 out of 5, transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This is one of the yellow ochres I would consider kind of an ugly yellow ochre. I think Da Vinci has a real pretty yellow ochre, and so do a couple of other brands. Da Vinci's just one I can think of offhand, but this one is very brown, kind of a dull yellow ochre when it dries. It's a PY42, light fast 5 out of 5, semi-opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. It is a good sub for raw sienna though. It's a very similar tone to raw siennas. Kind of interesting. I mean, same pigment, so I guess that makes sense. So this one I was a little worried about because it dried kind of sunk and really shiny like the brown oxide in the last video that didn't re-wet. So I wasn't sure if this one was going to re-wet. And I did have a little trouble with that. You can see that here. This is the raw sienna PY42 again. But the yellow ochre PY42 we just looked at was from the pan set. So it was formulated in a pan by Aquatone. This one here was from a tube that I dried out myself. Just not, I'm not sure. It did actually let me get quite a bit of pigment on there. So this is one you just need to put water on plenty ahead of time before trying to use it. I mentioned it's a PY42, light fast 5 out of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and this one is granulating. We're going to follow that up with the imidazoline yellow, PY154, light fast 5 out of 5, semi-opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. Once again, another beautiful, bright, vibrant, lovely yellow. Now we're moving back to the orange side of the spectrum a little bit. This is the isoindoline yellow. It is a PY139, light fast 5 out of 5, semi-opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. It's gorgeous. It's a great complement to the Indian yellow. It's a light orange. If you need a light orange in your palette, it's just very pretty. This next one is Naples Yellow. While not as bright as the Naples Yellow from a couple of other brands, it is pretty decent for a Naples Yellow. PY42, PY1, and PW6. It's light fast 5 out of 5, opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This has a little bit more brightness and less dullness than the yellow ochre, but they are reminiscent to each other, so they have very similar color hues or color tones. This one is just a little bit cleaner. This Naples Yellow Red came in the full pan set, and I actually used it a lot in my paintings. I painted with that set quite a bit in one of my classes, and that was over the time frame of several weeks, so I used it for quite a while. PY42, PO36, and PW6, light fast 5 out of 5, opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. And it just has enough hint of that orange in it that just brightens it up and makes it very pretty, very useful color. This last one here is another one that dried kind of worrisome. I wasn't sure it would re-wet because it sunk down. It was super shiny. But this one is the Nickel Azo Yellow. And I do believe that it re-wets okay. It just needs a moment to wake up. This is PY150, light fast 5 out of 5, transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This color has a brilliance and a glow to it that is just unparalleled anywhere else I've seen. It's pretty amazing. And I was going over the pan several times and kind of dabbing it back into the swatch just to make sure that I was certain it was actually re-wetting properly. And I believe if water sits on it just a moment, it will be fine for you, but whew, I was scared at first. But you can see there, we have plenty of color, plenty of brilliance. Well, they're all dry. We get to take a look at their dry goodness. And the next row. And the last row. Time to use these in a painting. Ironically, I got out this Hanamuli sketchbook because I've been trying to use it up, and there's yellows here from a different palette. I was cleaning the green out of my cadmium lemon from my Rosa Gallery palette, and so I did some shapes there. I think that's supposed to be a pear, and those are lemons. I'd never did anything with them yet. That was in April, the end of April. So I was going to do lemons, pears, maybe some yellow apples today using just the yellows and maybe some line work. It's just so funny that this page is here. I didn't even remember it. Cracks me up. I started drawing and then I realized some people really enjoy seeing the drawing process, so then I turned the camera on and showed you my drawing process. So I drew lemons up above, pears down below. It just felt like painting them again. It seemed like fun things to paint, and they are. Just spoiler alert, they're fun. That lemon yellow looks so amazingly neon in the camera. I think the camera is making it a little more neon than it is, but actually it is still really, really bright in person. And I love that. I often look at Christy Rice's paint set with her fluorescent yellow in there, and I think, you know, there are times I could really use a fluorescent yellow in my paintings. And this one is pretty close to fitting that bill. It's so pretty, it's so bright, it's so vibrant, and it has just a touch of like a green hint to it. So just a little bit of coolness in it. Oh, it's gorgeous. You can see I used that orange colored yellow, not the Indian yellow, but the iso-indoline yellow. And that just made for great color variation in the lemon. And for these little wedges, I just used the lemon yellow, very watered down, even though it still is so bright. It is very watered down, and dropped in raw sienna. So that little bit of that transparency where you're kind of seeing the gray colors that are in the lemon when you open it up like this, just kind of shining through and letting that mix in the wet paint. And I think that made it look pretty darn okay. And just adding more shadows with that orange color. It's, yes, I know, it's got yellow in the name. It's orangish, right? And then shadows with the mixture of that orange and raw sienna, but mostly the raw sienna. That raw sienna really needs to be mixed up now that it's dried in the pan. When you just put water on it and kind of rub your brush across the pan, it is a little bit gritty. But if you take it into your palette and stir it up with your brush and some water, then that grittiness goes away and you're just left with that nice darker color. And that works out pretty well. So I am moving on to the pears using pretty much the same color combinations, a few more of the yellows than I did before, and I'm having fun. I'm having a great time painting these. See, that's a yellow I didn't grab before, I don't think, so that one's quite nice. That is the imidazoline yellow. Interesting names. And that's the raw sienna you can see me dipping into. You can see how gritty it is because I just took it straight from the pan instead of mixing it around. So you definitely want to mix it around. And then just putting in a variety of these yellows. It's so fun to have just a limited palette you're working with, or limited color selections, I should say, because 12 colors is a lot of colors. When they happen to all be yellows, so to speak, then it's a fun challenge. And I had a lot of fun making these pears a little bit more colorful. I was going to say more colorful than the lemons, but the lemon on the left is pretty darn colorful up there, so maybe not more colorful, but I was having a good time. And I'm thinking you can probably tell from this video and maybe the previous videos, although that last one didn't really show any painting, how pigmented these colors are, these paints are in general. So with the exception of that brown oxide and maybe that raw sienna that don't re-wet really well, you get so much color payout with these so far that it's pretty amazing. Like I said, when I was painting with that 28 full pen set, I was a happy painter. I was going to say happy camper, but you know, happy painter fits better. So they're just enjoyable to work with. I do want to compare them to Roman Schmal, and there's another brand, Rosa Gallery. Kind of see they tend to remind me of those in a way, except for the paints that are super dry in the pan. Although Roman Schmal does have one that does that too, the Cypress Raw Umber Brownish. It does not like to re-wet at first. You have to give it some time to wake up. So they're maybe more similar than we think. I'm just finishing up here by adding shadows and just taking wet, damp brush, a clean, wet, damp brush, to diffuse the shadows. I didn't want hard line shadows in these paintings here. I wanted them to be more of a diffused shadow. So clean the brush, dampen it, and then just kind of touch the edges. I call that softening off in my classes. It's one of my most favorite things to do, and it's so useful. So it's something, if you don't know how to do, practice a couple times, because it's such an extremely needed thing when you're painting with watercolors. You need to know how to do that, in my opinion. So after I finish up the shadow, I decided this needed a little bit of playfulness. I do not always like to use spatter. I think it's kind of overused, but this is just my sketchbook and it just needed a little something. So I mixed up that colors that were left in my palette and spattered them over the top and bottom paintings a little bit. It dried very subtle. I could probably have done it much darker and it would have worked okay, but there they are. Very bright, lovely yellows. And here's a more close-up shot. Again, they're glowing a little more than they would in normal life in the video. I can't color correct it. I tried. So it's a nice bright yellow, no doubt. I just don't think it's quite that bright. But I like it. And there's the palette after painting almost nothing really, but... Well, those are the Aquatone yellows in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, because doing these paintings was absolutely a blast. I appreciate your time today. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.